All right, so now you've probably just gone through the factual information and detail quiz, and hopefully you did good on it. One thing I want to mention is that you can do this quiz, or any of the quizzes, as many times as you possibly want. You might have noticed if you got any wrong answers that when you press the check button, we give you some information as to why the answer was wrong. We also give you some bonus information about why the correct answer was right, or if there's any other information that you need to know. So, another thing I want to mention with this particular quiz about the factual information and detail questions, these are not questions that you will have on the exam. This quiz is designed to show you how to answer these question types, or this question type. Also, it says, this is the first question type that we deal with in this course, but these are not ordered like they are on the exam. In the reading section of the exam, the different question types are in a random order. Now, usually this will be the first question, but you might get one or two questions like this because it's factual information. It's the most common type of question, and that's why we have it as question type number 1. Just because it's the most common. So up at the top of the page, you have your different strategy. Obviously, you have to read the question stem. Now, question stem is a term that we're going to be using throughout this course. That means the actual question of the question type. According to the paragraph, what did Muhat think about the Khmers? That's the question stem. That's just an industry term. I don't know why they say stem, but whatever. So then you have to identify the keywords in the question stem. That's what this question is asking. What are the 3 keywords? Or what are the keywords? Now, it doesn't mean that they're always going to be 3, but there are 3 for this particular quiz. So if you went through the lesson, you remember that the phrase according to is just an indication that this is a factual information and detail type. The paragraph, that doesn't give you any information about the answer or anything that's going to help you. That's just telling you, in the paragraph, which you'll see on the next slide. What, that doesn't help you. That's just another indicator. According to what, now did. This does give you some information, but not anything that you need to really think about. It's just indicating that it's a positive answer. In other words, the answer is not going to be about something that the person didn't do or something which is not true. So it's going to be a positive answer. But the keywords here are the person, Muhat, that's the subject, think about is the verb phrase, and Khmers is the object. Okay, so there are your 3 key phrases, keywords and phrases. So we check, okay, good, we did a great job. Yeah, that just explains everything that I said there. Now, if you had chosen the wrong answers, it would have explained to you exactly what I said before. And I'll specifically choose a wrong answer for another one of the questions so that you can see, if you haven't already, why the choosing the wrong answer for these quizzes can actually give you some good information. The next part of the strategy for answering these is finding the location of the answer in the whole reading passage so that you don't have to read the whole reading passage. And once again, you do this with the keywords. Okay, so we have Muhat and the Khmers, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, and perhaps the people from that part of the world say this a little bit differently. That's not necessarily important for this video. But anyways, so those are our keywords. Well, we have the keyword there and there. We don't have either of those keywords in the second sentence. Also, we have think about, that's the verb phrase. Believe, that's synonymous to think about. So probably in the first one. Okay, great. All right, I was right, amazing. Okay, so now we get to the actual question. So according to the paragraph, what did Muhat think about the Khmers? Okay, so what's the answer? We know that the answer is probably in this first sentence, so we don't need to spend time reading the second sentence. We only need to do that if we don't find the answer in the sentence where the keywords are. Muhat, like other early Western visitors, and I'm doing it this way. Instead of looking at this, I'm doing it this way because it'll be easier to eliminate incorrect answers. I could do it by looking for this and then going through and trying to find the answer and then going back and doing it again and trying to find the answer. But if you know the location of the answer and you read it, then you'll know the answer in your head, and from there you can eliminate wrong answers and decide which one is the correct one. And that's a little bit quicker. So Muhat, like other early Western visitors, found it difficult to believe that the Khmers could have built the temple, and so he mistakenly dated its construction to be around the same era as that of Rome. Okay, so they knew the Romans. Nope, they didn't say anything about knowing them. He specifically said that he thought that the construction was from the same era. Okay, maybe you know the word era, but it doesn't have anything to do with knowing them, so that's probably the wrong answer. They were from Rome. No indication in that sentence that they were from there. They were from the same era. Okay, so whether you knew the word era or not, and you should if you're at the level of going into the TOEFL, that's an example of a vocabulary word that you should know. They would expect you to. They built the temple. Oh, wait, they said something about building. Yeah, built the temple. Oh, maybe that's the correct answer. But wait, this is one of the tricks and traps of the TOEFL exam, especially the reading section, but also in the speaking section. Using words that were directly in the reading passage, also in the question stem. Sometimes that is the one. But it's a trick because they know that people are going to be a little bit nervous when they're taking the exam, and maybe they'll just quickly choose the best ones. Like, oh yeah, it says right there, built a temple, built a temple. But he found it difficult to believe that they built a temple. What did he think about them? That they could not have built a temple. It was difficult for him to believe that. He didn't know. So they didn't build the temple. That one is most definitely not the answer, but even if you didn't take the time to look back and forth like I did here, because you don't have enough time to do that in the exam, you would know that, that's probably not the answer. And then we have the last one. They could not have built the temple. That matches up with difficult to believe, could not have. Now, it's not as definite, but that's probably the right answer, and sure enough, that's the right answer. Okay, so that's one of the tricks and traps from this question type, or all the different question types, is showing information exactly taken from the text, but it somehow changes the meaning, or it makes it the opposite. The other one, we have Romans. That's another one where, it says it right there, so maybe that's the answer. So just beware of those using exactly the same words. So let's go on to the next one. Here we have keywords. Well, once again, true about Gustav Klimt. Okay, good. So we already know that there's extra information down here, but if you struggled with that one, this is for these types of quizzes here, you're not being graded on any of these. These are it's quizzes to build your skills. So for some of them, it might even be better to just pick random answers that you know are wrong, just so you can read this information, and then you can go back and do the quiz again. It will always keep the last score that you had. And once again, you're not really being graded on any of the scores in the quizzes for this course. It's just there for your benefit. So we'll move on to the next one. Now, this is one that I want to show you because this is another trick and trap. This is not one that most people talk about, but in the question stem, we have what is true about. This is a fairly common question for this type of question. What is true about? So when we get to the part about trying to find the correct location for the answer, if we have something that says is true about, well, Klimt died. Okay, that's true. He was buried here. That's true. Numerous paintings were left unfinished. That's about him, but it's still true. 5 of his paintings were sold at auction. Well, that's also true. There's true information throughout this entire reading passage. So here, we don't know the location of the sentence. So this is another one of those master skills that can save you a few seconds. And now when in normal life, when we say, it'll just take me a few seconds, that usually means a very, very short period of time. But you'll find on the exam, a few seconds is a long time because time goes very quickly when it's ticking away on the exam. So if you see a question that says, what is true about, you can skip the second strategy of just trying to find the location of the correct answer up here. For this situation, you'll have to skip to looking at the actual answer choices and matching them up with the location here. Luckily, with numbers, they're really easy to spot. Okay, so he sold 5 paintings. Well, let's see, 327. So we go back to the beginning. 5 of his paintings were sold. Okay, it didn't say that he sold them. He died before finishing. Let's see, died. Gustav died in 1918. Well, wait a second. If he died in 1918, he couldn't have sold the paintings in 2006, so we know that that one's not correct. We don't know if he died before finishing them. So what's the other keyword here? Finish. Let's see. Stroke, suffered, pneumonia, influenza, Hetzinger, unfinished. Okay, that uses the same root. His numerous paintings were left unfinished at the time of his death. That one's definitely true. Okay, so here, this is another time saver. When we have an answer which is definitely true, and you are concerned about time, don't even bother with the next ones. Just pick it and move on. Now, it's possible that in some questions, there might be 2 answers which could be the answer. And in those situations, you need to guess the correct one. But that's not common enough for you to take the time to read this whole thing and try to check each answer. Once you find the answer which is true, just pick it and move on. If you're not sure, make a note about the question number and go back and check it later when you have more time. Okay, so we're going to skip through this part here because it's the same, just about the keywords. Once again, we have what can be said about. Well, that's also like what is true about. So we're just going to skip that because we know that in that situation, the whole thing is probably true information. Okay, so this is an example of one where we have a lot of different information and we might have to bounce it back and forth and think logically about the information that's given. Okay, so we know what was said about. Well, when we say said by who? They just mean what was said in the reading passage. Now, nobody's actually saying it, but this is a common expression to say, what information was given about. So it's basically the same as saying what is true about. Okay, he did not know the Texians. Unbeknownst to the Texians. That's another trick. Okay, so we have the root word know, unbeknownst. Maybe that's it. No, it's not. That's a trick. Using words that are in the answer choice that are also in the reading passage, but it changes the information. Unbeknownst means they didn't know, but here it says he did not know. But here it's the Texians that did not know. So that one's wrong. We can skip that, and we only had to read 4 words to find that, to eliminate that one. He defeated a small force along the coast. Let's see. Oh, there he is. That's him. Along the coast. Along the coast. Wait, what does it say there? Okay, so here it says he defeated a small force along the coast. Mexican General Jose led a large contingent of troops from Matamoros, Texan, neutralize the rebels who were gathered along the coast. Okay, that doesn't exactly mean the same thing. If you know the word neutralize, it just means to stop them or to make them, not powerful anymore. It could be that he captured them. We don't know. So this one right here, it doesn't mean exactly the same thing. So we'll have to put that into the whole category of maybe it's the answer. He was from Matamoros. Wait, they mentioned Matamoros here. From Matamoros, he led a large contingent of troops from Matamoros. Well, that could mean that the troops were from Matamoros, but it probably means that he and the troops were in Matamoros and he led them to the coast to neutralize the rebels. Probably not the answer. He was ambushed by 150 troops. Ooh, number. Where's the number? There it is. So going back to the beginning of the sentence, informants revealed Grant's location on the morning of March 2nd. Uriah sent 150 troops. Okay, so if he sent the troops, he couldn't have been ambushed by them. So we know that's not the answer. That's not the answer. That's probably not the answer. Then this must be the best answer. Okay, but up here, we don't know. It's not the same thing. To leading troops to neutralize rebels along the coast is not the same as defeating a small force along the coast. So this is a little bit unclear. Now, the reason I put this here is because usually the answers will be much more clear. But I have spoken to a lot of people, and I have seen examples where they weren't exactly very clear. Now, that is probably a mistake by the people who created the exam, but they have to change the exam every single week, and they've been doing this exam since the 1960s. So, I'm sure that every once in a while they come up with questions that are not necessarily the best. So in situations where we know that these three are not the answer, so even though this one is not exactly true as far as logic shows, it's the best answer that we have. So just choose it and move on. Now, of course, in the exam, you're not going to know if it's the right answer until, actually, you won't know if it's the right answer. You just have to wait and get your scores later. But this is basically what you got to do. Choose the best one and move on. Now, in this course here, you finish your quiz, you get your score. We got 9 out of 9 because I purposely chose a wrong answer. But now you can click here to continue. That will move you on to the next lesson. I've already done this one, so it's bringing me back to the beginning. If you haven't done it before and you choose the finish quiz, it will bounce you to the next lesson. You might have already noticed that, but you've also noticed just from watching this that you can also go back and you can bounce around. Make sure to click the marked complete button that's down at the end of the lesson. Otherwise, it won't be registered on this bar as being completed. But then you can go back and retake the quiz if you want to. Here, I just moved back to the beginning of the lesson, but the quiz is on this last page. So you can go back and do the quiz as many times as you need, as many times as you want. If you've done the quiz and it's months later and you're getting ready for the exam and you want to go back and have some more practice, do it again. It certainly won't hurt. And that is, I guess I should run through the strategy again just to summarize. So with the factual information and detail questions, whenever you see a phrase like according to, in paragraph 2, what is true about, what was said about, according to this person, what did the author say? Those are going to be factual information and detail questions. So the first thing you do, read the question stem, find the keywords. That's going to be subject, object, verb, phrase. Try to find the location in the reading passage. If you don't see the location in the reading passage, or if you get one that says what's true about, what can be said about, jump down to the answer choices and find the keywords there and match them up with what's in the reading passage. Eliminate answers which are obviously wrong. Choose the best one if it's not clear. And if you don't know, always pick the best answer or just choose any answer and move on. Make a note if you have done that, and that way you can come back to it later. The reading section is the only section where you can actually go back and redo a certain question. So that's the basic, that's the strategy for this question type, and that's also the tricks and the traps and the master skills for this particular question type. And really, that's one of the master skills for the entire reading section. If you don't know the answer, just guess and move on. Don't ever leave it blank, because then you'll definitely get marked down for that. But if you guess one, you could get the correct answer, and then you get it right. And now that might seem like, oh, it's cheating. But this lesson is preparing, or this exam is preparing you for life. And how many times in real life do you just have to guess? A lot. Maybe some more than others, but it's normal. That's part of life. So just guess and move on. Come back to it if you have time. And if you have any questions about this or anything else in any of the lessons, just leave a question down here. I will either address it in the question section and you'll get an email about that, or if it's a really good question, I'll write a blog post about it and you'll get an email when the blog post is printed, or when it's posted. So that's it. Factual, detail, information, questions. Thanks for joining in on this lesson, and we'll see you in the next lesson.